Our last conversation was all about simplicity, and that was one of the two big ideas that you and I have been talking about for a few weeks. The other one is operational rhythm, which means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. What does that term mean to you? And when it's done well, how does that show up?
So if we want to stage guide a buying process, what does that mean for what activities we expect from our sellers? How are we going to document, test for, is this happening or not? What's the exit criteria that we need to pass through? Typically what happens, that playbook, over time, it starts to get wildly long and complex because you don't cut anything out of it, you just add to it. So as the business evolves, you start to launch new product lines, you move up market. Now you have a segmented team, you're thinking commercial all the way up through enterprise. Now we have low enterprise, high enterprise, key accounts. Everything tends toward complexity. So what ends up happening is when you layer on too much, it just doesn't get done. So you take your playbook, maybe there are 8, let's say, core steps. Spot check a couple deals, open them up in your Salesforce, your HubSpot, and say, okay, this deal, this deal, this deal. How many were executed with each step in our playbook? Can I open up and read the account plan, the demo brief, the handoff doc for our CSM, the business case? Exactly. It's like those are very conspicuously absent when you start to test for them. It's because you never cut anything out. And so, for example, one of our teams that we've worked with over this last year, so they're a $600 million ARR business. We rewrote the exit criteria in stages for how they go to market with a single sentence. And most people will be like, these are big accounts, complex systems. We couldn't possibly do this in a sentence. And it's like, well, hey, if we don't believe that this one sentence is happening, that it's the most important thing, nothing else matters, right? We got to nail this, and then you can layer it on. So the exercise, to get back to this idea of designing an operational rhythm, it's executed consistently to hit the outcome with simplicity. Don't start to just cut, throw it out, then only add back what you think are the core most important things, one thing at each stage. Make sure that that's getting done, and then you can start to see if you want to add more things in.
It's a little bit like fitness and nutrition, right? Because like you can build this really complex workout routine and like measure all your macros and what you eat and like get all your nutrients and your supplements. But if your adherence to that program is like 5%, it doesn't matter. The most well-designed program that you don't follow, it doesn't do anything. There's this phrase that I like that goes, adherence trumps dogma. So the thing you can adhere to is way better than the most elegantly constructed system. And I think if a lot of sales leaders out there look in the mirror, they print out their sales process and they ask themselves with some truth serum in their blood, how many of these steps are actually being followed in every deal in my pipeline? Like that's a wake-up call, but it's also an invitation to simplify.
There's another saying, it's like one idea violently executed will beat a whole book of good ideas time and time again. Part of it comes back to, well, what are we going to keep and pull in? You have to be highly strategic about what those things are. And I know this is a concept that is very near and dear to your heart, the process of becoming a strategic leader. So I'd love to maybe kind of riff on that idea. What does it mean to be strategic, and how does that relate to designing the operational rhythm for a business?
Like strategy is something anybody can do, and it's really 3 techniques. It's diagnosing, it's choosing, and it's planning. And if you have a good diagnosis of what's going on and what the opportunity or the challenge is that people should focus on, like this is what matters, that is the first ingredient to strategy. Second ingredient is saying like, this is what we should do about that, this instead of that. And then you got to put that choice into action with a plan. Like this is how we track our progress, this is how we know we're getting to where we want to go. I mean, to me, a good operational rhythm is what feeds your diagnosis as a leader. And you can't do that at an elite level without the right data. And that's what I think about when I think about operational rhythm. Data is only as good as the conversation it creates. And a good conversation answers questions that matter. And so when I do this with my companies, I start with the questions. I don't start with the data. Literally, we'll write down on a whiteboard, here are the questions that we need to know every week, every month, every quarter. The good thing is those are already questions that they're asking themselves. Questions like, are we going to hit the quarter? Are we creating enough pipeline? How is our sales team doing? How is marketing doing? What deals matter the most that we should pay attention to? All those questions are being asked and answered every single day. The problem is they're being answered with intuition and gut feel. And when they are answered with data, they're answered with reactive data that people go and pull on a one-time basis. They don't put it in the flow of how they answer those questions. So for me, the missing thing is starting with the question, not starting with the metric. So frameworks are good, stories are better. Do you have an example from a customer or somebody that you've worked with where you have worked on their operational rhythm, you've improved it or simplified it or made it better, and that helped take the business to the next level?
2 days ago on Tuesday, I was celebrating a couple pretty fun wins with, catching up, and we had their whole team, their SVP of sales, SVP of enablement on, and we were just looking back at what they had changed in their operating rhythms based on strategically where they're going as a business. The first question that the team was asking is, why are deals disappearing in the mid-funnel? Despite such strong, like, peer logos, you know, some people coming in top of the funnel, it would just kind of like fizzle out. And so we said, okay, why are they disappearing? Why aren't they moving forward? Well, what we started to do is we said, well, what data do we have to know when they disappear and when they don't move forward? We knew that was at stage 2. So we said, okay, what is the actual conversion stage 2 to 3? We started to measure that, baseline it. Okay, what needs to change in how we operate from a playbook perspective? So what we found is quite simply, there was no attachment or alignment to an existing executive priority. We had people in the purchase experience, customer experience, e-commerce teams who loved the platform, but they couldn't actually get that to resonate higher. So what we decided to do is we started to tie in, okay, how might we use a really strong executive summary style business case to cross that chasm, to take pipeline that's coming in, keep it moving beyond stage 2 to 3. Now, once we started to execute against that, so every stage 2 deal had a business case in place, what leaders started to do was to score that. And they would test for gaps in the deal by opening up and reading the page of content and guiding the seller stage 3, 4, 5. Is this a strong enough message to say, hey, we actually have something in this deal, let's continue to progress it? So now gating at each stage is based on the business case that's been built with the buying team. Now, whenever a demo request goes out to their SC, there's a link that brings you back to the business case that they generated inside of our platform to say, hey, let's look at the messaging and the language that we need to bring into that demo to make sure that it continues stage 3 to 4. Now, we're getting ready to hand off the account. What's the customer expecting? Even now, when you go out to the deal desk and you're requesting pricing, finance is coming back and saying, show me the case. I need to understand if you're looking for some type of discount, what's the context here? So baked into the fabric of how they run revenue now from stage 2 forward is all designed around a document that's consistent and every go-to-market role is tied into it. And that's how you start to get both the operational rhythm that, by the way, inside of 90 days, we started to see a 7% jump in stage 2 to 3. When you think about the outcome on the other side at the scale that they're operating at, that's not small.